Hello, ghouls and goblins. Nick here. Hope everyone's doing well today. I am back with another Bone Chiller book review. We are today talking about book number 6, Teacher Creature. Teacher Creature, I think, is definitely one of the stronger books. It was a lot of fun. Maybe my second favorite, I think, so far. Um, my first being Frank and Turkey. I think this book is better written, though, I will say. I definitely see, it being a fun one if you enjoy like more adventure type books. It definitely gets the setting right. It definitely uses the setting, and that really I think helped the adventure aspect, which of course I'll go into in a moment. But as always, we want to talk about the cover first. So starting with the cover, we have this very, I think, hilarious frog teacher. That pink tongue is incredible with the lighting on it, the reflective light. Tim Jacobus did wonderful on this. I love how the tongue's even sort of dripping down through the border page, which is a great touch. Of course, not to be confused with the Creature Teacher, the Series 2000 Goosebump book, which Tim Jacobus also did the cover for. Scary Teacher. I quite like that it has a lot of similarities to that, though, like with the apple and, like the alphabet on top of the board here. Great frog monster. And I love how he gives off that unimpressed teacher vibe. I'm watching you, you better settle down, or I'll send you to the principal's office kind of vibe, which is great. The border page is awesome too. I love the blue and the pink combo. Fits very well with the tongue, of course, and just the blue and green just fits very nicely. Love the blurb here. Guess who crawled out of the swamp? Swamp Thing. Very cool. Okay, on to the story part. This one is so good. I really love the setting in this one. It makes the book for me, and I love how Betsy Haynes approached this. I think sometimes the first half of the book can kind of be a slog to get through, but this one was incredible. It was my favorite part, actually, the first half. Usually the second part, as it builds up, it gets good, but this one, from the get-go, keeps you engaged. So starting off, we have our main character, Joey. We are looking through the story through his perspective. Very typical kid. I don't know what else to say about him. Has a friend, Nate. He and Nate, they start off in classroom setting, and we are introduced to the teacher, Mr. Vernon, who is a different teacher, but he's sort of talking about the upcoming hurricane that will be hitting their town that they live in soon. The book takes place in Florida. Hurricane coming through. The teacher is sort of explaining the science around it. Be prepared when it comes, and to tell everyone's parents kind of thing. Their character that we're introduced to, her name is Sally. She's not friends with Joey or Nate. She's kind of the teacher's pet. And of course, she, knows all the facts too about the hurricane, and kind of gives Joey and Nate a hard time for not paying attention in class. So it's a fun dynamic. My favorite part of the story, next big setting plot here, they end up back in the school. They kind of mess around and they're not really taking it seriously. So, Joey slips out of his house, goes to Nate's house, and they're kind of doing shenanigans during this whole ordeal with the hurricane coming and people getting ready for it and bordering up their homes and things like that. They run into Sally too at the grocery store, and she's got some groceries, and of course she's, what are you guys doing out? You should be going home and getting prepped for this hurricane. End up back at the school, and it's coming in very strong at this point, the hurricane, so they take shelter in the hurricane. And of course, I love, and this is the scene I love quite a bit, where they're just, sort of trapped in the school. You hear the sounds of the wind, and it's very dark outside, and all the debris coming through, and the noise. It's Betsy Haynes does a great job in this setting and lighting the mood for this. The other great part is we sort of get introduced to the frog monster. Um, they look out the window. They're kind of looking, close to the playground, seeing how the weather outside is. And they make out this weird shape of something. And can't really see it too well because it's dark out from the hurricane. And, it seems to get closer over time. And it seems like it's something, but it's hunched over. It's kind of big. They think it's a dog. Look out in the hurricane at first, but it gets closer and they still can't really like make out, but it looks like it has this bloodied mouth, which I thought was, great. And then eventually enter the eye of the storm or eye of the hurricane, where it kind of quiets down a minute before it starts back up with the heavy winds and stuff. A thing comes in the school with them out of the windows because, a lot of the glass in the windows break. And at some point, they're huddled up in the principal's office eating sandwiches, waiting for it to pass. Whatever this thing is, it's in the school. They're kind of freaking out. So when the lull sort of comes, they take the opportunity to leave, stepping over the broken glass, all that stuff. Go to Joey's house first. Of course, everyone has evacuated at this point. A bit earlier in the story, while they're in the school, there's a radio in there, but they're listening to it, and it talks about them being missing. They can't really send out any kind of search and rescue because of the storm, so of course, their parents are very worried. They go back to Joey's house. They can't get in. It's too boarded up. Make it to Nate's house, and thankfully there's some loose planks sort of on the window. Joey is able to squeeze through, and he's able to get them in, and that's where they stay for the remainder of the hurricane until they leave, and they find, like some of the cleanup crew. And they're like, oh, they tell them who they are, that they're the missing kids. So they get back, home eventually. And their parents, of course, are very happy. They try to explain to the cleanup crew and their parents about what they saw, the monster that they saw. But no one really believes them. So at some point, they go back to the school. It's been cleaned up now. But teacher is not Mr. Vernon anymore. It's Mr. Batrachian now. And he's a bit shorter, brown leather suit, has warts, has this, kind of this wide mouth. Kind of can see where this is going. He's, of course, the frog monster, which, of course, they find out later in the book. He is more cool than Mr. Batrachian. Mr. Vernon. And Mr. Batrachian is going to take them on a field trip out into the Everglades for them to study the effects of the hurricane and how it's affected the Everglades and around them and the swamp since it came through. And so everyone's pretty excited about it. There's some pretty off things with Mr. Batrachian. At this point, Molly and Nate are convinced that what they saw wasn't anything like a monster. Joey is still pretty hard-pressed on that, though. The second half of the book, we are in the swamp area. They have this assignment Batrachian's given them to identify certain organisms that live in the environment, whether it be a certain tree or certain animal. He keeps getting them deeper and deeper into the swamp. Eventually, Joey kind of puts two and two together because at certain moments it looks like Mr. Batrachian's tongue is coming out of his mouth and trying to, catch bugs flying around. And when they're in the swamp, unsuspected to Mr. Batrachian, Joey comes up behind him and sees that he's eating a raccoon. Which is pretty horrifying. So it kind of all makes sense at that point. Of course, the blood on his mouth. Mr. Batrachian is the creature outside of the school during the hurricane. It gets later in the day, the first time they go to the swamp. So they leave, and Mr. Batrachian's like, well, we're going to come right back. We're not, we're going to stay until we find all the things on the assignment. But really, he's trying to get them out there to eat them, of course. So the next day, they come back. Joey tries to get out of it and stay home, but he feels bad because he knows this guy is a monster. So he goes to the school first. He finds this book Mr. Batrachian's reading called Preparing Children. And at first, he's like, well, it's just a psychology book. But he opens it up, and it's like a recipe with children, making them with like sauteed mushrooms, and how long do you put them in the oven for so many degrees kind of thing. That was where Mr. Batrachian got that book. It turns out the old teacher, we find out, Mr. Vernon, is eaten at some point, according to Mr. Batrachian. Mr. Batrachian eats him, which is horrifying. At the end, he captures Nate, has him tied up. He's got a fire going. He's going to eat him. There's also like a chase scene where he's chasing Joey and Molly, and he's using his tongue as a whip. And kind of cat and mouse kind of dynamic there. But at the end, find out Mr. Batrachian isn't the only thing that has mutated from the hurricane coming through, whipping up things like him. It turns out that there are other things in the swamp, like there's this walking tree. They call it, supposedly it uproots and moves a little bit at a time. But of course, this mutated one much faster, and there's like, I can't remember if it's it or not, but it's on like their little scavenger hunt. They have to find one of the kids, but essentially it traps Mr. Batrachian in its branches, and takes it deeper into like the mangrove, I think, or something. Anyway, he gets eaten, I think, by an alligator, which they see earlier in the book. And the book sort of ends with the alligator coming out and smiling at them. And he's got a little blood on his teeth from where he ate Mr. Batrachian. So, just pretty horrifying. Yeah, it was a really fun book. Love the adventure aspect of it. The setting is great, I think, with the swamp, but especially in the school scene when the hurricane is happening, and how sort of written in its setting. I think that the idea of the mutation, I think if it were me rewriting it, and of course this is just like a slight little nitpick that I have about it, I would have had something like, like a vat of radioactive stuff. I know that's kind of cliche, or something similar that sort of landed in the certain spot of the swamp, that mutated Mr. Batrachian and the other stuff, but have had maybe a more concrete reason for the mutation. But I think other than that, very solid book. I give it an 8. And if any of you have read it, what did you think? Did you enjoy it? And as always, have a good one, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks. Bye-bye.